Abu Allah Muhammad al-Idrisi, al-Qurtubi, al-Hasani, al-Sabti, or simply al-Idrisi, ælɪddriːsiː, was a Muslim geographer, cartographer and Egyptologist who lived in Palermo, Sicily at the court of King Roger II. Muhammad al-Idrisi was born in Ceuta, then belonging to the Moroccan Almoravids. Early life. Al-Idrisi was born into the large Hammadid family of North Africa and Al-Andalus, which claimed descent from the Idriids of Morocco and ultimately the Prophet Muhammad. Al-Idrisi was born in the city of Ceuta, where his great-grandfather had been forced to settle after the fall of Hammadid Malaga to the Zirids of Granada. He spent much of his early life traveling through North Africa and Al-Andalus and seems to have acquired detailed information on both regions. He visited Anatolia when he was barely 16. He studied in Córdoba. His travels took him to many parts of Europe, including Portugal, the Pyrenees, the French Atlantic coast, Hungary, and Jorvik. Tabula Rogeriana. Because of conflict and instability in Al-Andalus, al-Idrisi joined contemporaries such as Abu al-Salt in Sicily, where the Normans had overthrown Arabs formerly loyal to the Fatimids. Al-Idrisi incorporated the knowledge of Africa, the Indian Ocean and the Far East gathered by Islamic merchants and explorers and recorded on Islamic maps with the information brought by the Norman voyages to create the most accurate map of the world in pre-modern times, which served as a concrete illustration of his Kitab Nazar al-Mushtaq, which may be translated a diversion for the man longing to travel to far-off places. The Tabula Rogeriana was drawn by al-Idrisi in 1154 for the Norman King Roger II of Sicily after a stay of 18 years at his court, where he worked on the commentaries and illustrations of the map. The map, with legends written in Arabic while showing the Eurasian continent in its entirety, only shows the northern part of the African continent and lacks details of the Horn of Africa and Southeast Asia. For Roger it was inscribed on a massive disc of solid silver, 2 meters in diameter. On the geographical work of al-Idrisi, S.P. Scott wrote in 1904, the compilation of Idrisi marks an era in the history of science. Not only is its historical information most interesting and valuable, but its descriptions of many parts of the earth are still authoritative. For 3 centuries geographers copied his maps without alteration. The relative position of the lakes which form the Nile, as delineated in his work, does not differ greatly from that established by Baker and Stanley more than 700 years afterwards, and the number is the same. The mechanical genius of the author was not inferior to his erudition. The celestial and terrestrial planisphere of silver which he constructed for his royal patron was nearly 6 feet in diameter, and weighed 450 pounds. Upon the one side the zodiac and the constellations, upon the other, divided for convenience into segments, the bodies of land and water, with the respective situations of the various countries, were engraved. Al-Idrisi inspired Islamic geographers such as Ibn Battuta, Ibn Khaldun and Piri Reis. His map also inspired Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama. Description of islands in the North Sea. Al-Idrisi in his famous Tabula Rogeriana mentioned Irland al-Kabira, according to him, for the extremity of Iceland to that of Great Island, the sailing time was 1 day. Quote, although historians note that both al-Idrisi and the Norse tend to understate distances, the only location this reference is thought to have possibly pointed to must likely have been in Greenland. Description of Chinese trade. Al-Idrisi mentioned that Chinese junks carried leather, swords, iron and silk. He mentions the glassware of the city of Hangzhou and labels Quanzhou's silk as the best. Nuzhar al-Mushtaq, as well as the maps. Al-Idrisi produced a compendium of geographical information with the title Kitab Nuzhar al-Mushtaq fi Tiraq al-Afaq. The title has been translated as the Book of Pleasant Journeys into Faraway Lands of the Pleasure of Him Who Longs to Cross the Horizons. It has been preserved in 9 manuscripts, 7 of which contain maps. The translated title of this work attracted favorable comment from the team selecting lists of names for features expected to be discovered by the New Horizons probe reconnoitering the Pluto system. The al-Idrisi Montes is a geographical feature in that system named after him. In the introduction, al-Idrisi mentions 2 sources for geographical coordinates, Claudius Ptolemy and an astronomer that must be Ishaq ibn al-Hasan al-Zayyat, and states that he has cross-checked oral reports from different informers to see if geographical coordinates were consistent. Publication and translation. An abridged version of the Arabic text was published in Rome in 1592 with title, De Geographia Universalis Kitab Nuzhar al-Mushtaq fi Dhiq wa al-Amzar wa al-Akta wa al-Budn wa al-Jusur wa al-Mada in wa al-Afaq, which in English would be Recreation of the Desirer in the account of cities, regions, countries, islands, towns, and distant lands. This was one of the first Arabic books ever printed. The first translation from the original Arabic was into Latin. The Maronites Gabriel Schneiter and Johann Hezroniter translated an abridged version of the text which was published in Paris in 1619 with the rather misleading title of Geographia Nubiensis. Not until the middle of the 19th century was a complete translation of the Arabic text published. This was a translation into French by Pierre-Aimé Écoute Jobert. More recently, sections of the text have been translated for particular regions. Beginning in the 1970s, a critical edition of the complete Arabic text was published. Andalusian American Contact. Al-Idrisi's geographical text, Nuzhar al-Mushtaq, is often cited by proponents of pre-Columbian Andalusian America's contact theories. In this text, al-Idrisi wrote the following on the Atlantic Ocean. The commander of the Muslims Ali ibn Yusuf ibn Tashfin sent his admiral Ahmad ibn Umar, better known under the name of Raksh al-Uzz, to attack a certain island in the Atlantic, but he died before doing that. Beyond this ocean of fogs, it is not known what exists there. Nobody has the sure knowledge of it, because it is very difficult to traverse it. Its atmosphere is foggy, its waves are very strong, its dangers are perilous, its beasts are terrible, and its winds are full of tempests. There are many islands, some of which are inhabited, others are submerged. No navigator traverses them but bypasses them, remaining near the coast, and it was from the town of Lisbon that the adventurers set out, known under the name of Mufamaran, penetrated the ocean of fogs and wanted to know what it contained and where it ended. After sailing for 12 more days, they perceived an island that seemed to be inhabited, and there were cultivated fields. They sailed that way to see what it contained, but soon barks encircled them and made them prisoners, and transported them to a miserable hamlet situated on the coast. There they landed. The navigators saw the people with red skin. There was not much hair on the body, the hair of the head was straight, and they were of high stature. The women were of an extraordinary beauty. This translation by Professor Muhammad Hamidullah is however questionable, since it reports, after having reached an area of sticky and stinking waters, the Mughararan moved back and first reached an uninhabited island where they found a huge quantity of sheep, the meat of which was bitter and uneatable, and then continued southward and reached the above reported island, where they were soon soon surrounded by barks and brought to a village whose inhabitants were often fair-haired with long and flaxen hair, and the women of a rare beauty. Among the villagers, one spoke Arabic and asked them where they came from. Then the king of the village ordered them to bring them back to the continent, where they were surprised to be welcomed by Berbers. Apart from the marvelous and fanciful reports of this history, the most probable interpretation is that the Mugharirin reached the Sargasso Sea, a part of the ocean covered by seaweed, which is very close to Bermuda yet 1,000 miles away from the American mainland. Then, while coming back, they may have landed either on the Azores, or on Madeira, or even on the westernmost Canary Island, El Hierro. Last, the story with the inhabited island might have occurred either on Tenerife or on Gran Canaria, where the Mugharirin presumably met some Guanche tribe. This would explain why some of them could speak Arabic and why they were quickly deported to Morocco, where they were welcomed by Berbers. Yet, the story reported by al-Idrisi is an indisputable account of a certain knowledge of the Atlantic Ocean by Andalusians and Moroccans. Furthermore, al-Idrisi writes an account of 8 Mugharirin, all from the same family, who set sail from Lisbon in the first half of that century and navigated in the seaweed-rich seas beyond the Azores. Idrisi describes an island of cormorants with which Corvo, Cape Verde, has been tentatively identified, but on weak grounds. In popular culture, al-Idrisi was the main character in Tariq Ali's book entitled A Sultan in Palermo. Al-Idrisi's ideas on Mer Tenebrarum are alluded to in Pascal Mercier's book entitled Night Train to Lisbon. Al-Idrisi's works had a profound influence on European writers such as Marino Sanuto the Elder, Antonio Malfante, Joan Ferrer, and Alonso Fernandez de Lugo. The popular idea ISIGIS system, developed by Clark University, is named after Muhammad al-Idrisi. In 2010, the government of Mauritius unveiled a planisphere of al-Idrisi at Travelers' Lane, initiated by semiologist Culturabili, at the Jardin de la Compagnie, Port Louis, to pay homage to the work of the geographer. Gallery